you know, they called me about the girls. That was the ministry that called me. They wanted me to understand that there were children being oppressed. And I was a member of the U.S. Congress, so do something. And I remember thinking at the time, these little boys that I'd see in India, boy, were they rough. They had to survive. They were sniffing glue. They were in bands of groups to survive. And they had been often abandoned, or their mommies were in that place of sorrow. And so it was like, what do you do with boys? But God had a plan. And they're just like girls when it comes to loving their mommies. They want to be with their mommies, and mommies care about their little boys, and yet sometimes they just don't think alike, like the girls. And I remember thinking, as I got them all gifts, I would take in bundles, huge bundles of toys, dolls, and for the boys, little boys, stuffed animals, and balls, and trucks, and cars, and I'd take the littler boys, the teddy bears, and the girls' dolls. Pooja picks up her doll, she kisses it on the forehead, and she hugs it. Ajay picks up his little boys like Ajay, pick up their teddy bears, they lay them out, and they fly them like planes, and they have a motor. And you know, they're just the same, they are different. But along the years, my greatest thought was, how do they learn to be men? How do they learn to be men after what has happened, what they've seen other men do, the sorrow their mothers have been in? How do these little ones that have been in that place and often lost their mothers to this horrible torture, and they died from the diseases resulting, what do they do? And what does God do with them? But over a period of time, some of the little boys, and I'm going to introduce you to one, from the India brothels, would go to our village in India. Mommy would end up back in Nepal, that's where she came from. And there were homes. We built out boys' homes for Teen Challenge with them at the far end of the village in India. But those mommies that wanted to go back to Nepal, what do? Well, you take the boys back to Nepal to be with their mommies. But what if it's just about two women and about two little boys? Well, today, introducing you to Ajay, he is the answer. One of the answers. God has raised up men who have grown up now 16 years in the village, and they are now leaders in the village. I'd like to introduce you to my brother, my kid, his auntie, whatever I am, and I'd like to introduce you to Ajay. Ajay? Now, Ajay is 18, as of 3 weeks ago, on the 7th of October, and Ajay also is the oldest boy. He came when he was about 8. I'm going to tell a little of his story because he can tell you some funny things that I love. And he caught up with his mom. Without going through the story of mommy, it's similar to everyone else's. He has a little different story. You tended animals as